Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Greg Wolf, Andy Serling, back at Aqueduct, back in the first floor studio. I like the two studio.
It's homey, right?
It is. It is. It used to be that the set was actually over there when they did the famous Thoroughbred action shows with Harvey Pack, John and Brielle. Many legendary guests sat in the studio. Somehow the show.
To be here.
It is an honor to be in this room. It was great, actually. That was Harvey's office right over there. We used to all hang out in there. We did Talking Horses in here as well, but that's going back a long time. Got a 9-race card to talk about. We are fast and firm as well. Let's head over to NYRA Bets. If you're not a member of NYRA Bets, no better time than the present. Use the promo code MATCH200 and we'll match $200 of your initial deposit. We also have, let's see, the middle pick 4. That would be 2, 3, and 6, I want to say, in our 9-race card. It's been a while since we've had a 9-race card, right?
Yep, 2, 3, 6.
All right, and what else do we have? We have a 20% exacta bonus. I actually opted in for this already a long time ago. I saw this, I got very excited for that. You want to opt in over at NYRA Bet, 20% exacta bonus on all of your exactas here at Aqueduct. I love this. I actually love this promotion. Doesn't seem to work well for me though, Greg.
You got to hit them to make them pay off.
Yeah, but it's a good one. I actually like this one. I think I opted in. It might not actually have been available when I tried earlier in the week. Anyway, it is now, and I'm opted in right now, as we speak. I think
everyone else should as well. Get it out of the way.
It really is a great promotion. It's the 15th, and if my friend would stop texting me every 10 seconds, I'd be able to do this. There we go. Okay, what else do we have, guys? Oh, we have the show, 1 to 5:30. On FS2. Greg, you and I will be on from a little bit before 3.
Yes.
I want to say until 5:30.
Keisha Clement
and Sarah Elbadwi will be in studio before us. Richie Migliore is sort of
all over the
around,
place.
And Keisha will probably be down later, I'm guessing, in the paddock. Maggie is out this weekend. She is the Real Ryder Cup.
That's right.
You want to contribute to that? That's actually a good cause. Maggie will be in there. You can contribute to anybody and everybody. Maggie as well, who's there representing us, I guess, or herself, or whatever.
Yeah, we had a little featured on the show yesterday.
It's nice, good thing. It's a good thing. I think it's a brainchild of Anita Motion and Maggie Kimmett, actually, to raise money for an awareness for retired thoroughbreds. Anyway, race number 1, a big scratch in race number 1. Probably one of the bigger scratches as far as the shorter price on the card today of the 4 Champagne Poetry, the big drop down coming out. So Maggie's not here, but Maggie is in the first race, another Maggie, and we'll take a look at her 2 races back, breaking her maiden. You end up, I think, scratching into her on top.
Yeah.
Let you talk about it.
Well, this was a little strange. This was just going completely in reverse on the back. We're looking 2 back, though, right? The win?
We were looking at the win 2 races
back. So this was a win. Her most recent start, she stretched out to a mile. Look, the win is why I like her. Maybe just she's been her sprinting. She's stretched out to a mile out of the Wilson Chute in that second race. There's plenty to like in terms of this field, what she did in this race. The next race, it was just strange. Luis Saez just put her all the way back to near second to last, had to make this wide move around the turn. I don't know what, because she was fairly involved, at least mid-pack early on, and then just completely dropped out of it, but then made this big late run. I think cutting back to sprinting, which she may do better anyway, there's not anyone really to be scared of in this field.
No, no, nobody scared.
She is obviously the one to beat, and she right now, as you said, is 3 to 5. I think, especially with the 4 gone, it's her race to lose.
She's going to be a very, very short price. There's no question about it. And she's really like winner. That race we showed, I actually think she ran better than it looks because the rail was good that day. And Marley's Ghost, who's no killer, but Marley's Ghost had a very good trip of the rail. And I said having bet Marley's Ghost and kind of had the run of the race and sort of should have won. And yet Maggie still came on and beat her, and I don't disagree, but I'm going to give a shot to Goodbye Kyle. It's a very odd private purchase. I don't really know what they paid for this horse. It ran for 16 last time for Lacey Gadet. And I know the horses, obviously, the recent races are bad, but the horse's debut was clearly fast enough to win this race, and thought maybe going to David Jacobson, this horse could wake up. I was just looking for a different face in here. I didn't feel like defaulting to Maggie or to Champagne Poetry, frankly, who I didn't trust either.
Okay.
But, I mean, I don't really have much to say. It's tough to take any of the others, and she's really the only one I could make a case for.
Yeah, it's not like Maggie's some reliable, huge favorite either.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and she's going to be a pretty short price in here, and probably justifiably so, but I'll take a small shot to beat her. Race number 2, there really isn't a whole lot of form to go on in race 2, and like you've got a horse like Strange Fruit, who's going to take money in here. And I got to say, Greg, I just feel like there are better and more interesting horses in this race than Strange Fruit.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, this was a race where she should have got it done.
Yep, I agree.
Slow fractions front end and still unable to finish. And that's, you have upside with the one Unholy on the inside who's dropping in for a tag for the first time. It's probably going to show speed from that inside post. It's going to make this kind of trip for Strange Fruit probably even much more difficult to even get.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. I think the rail was actually pretty good yesterday. I don't know how much of an advantage it was, but I thought it was a good place to be overall.
Oh, I'm just saying she won't get the lead, probably.
No, I don't think she's getting the lead from the 7 Montauk Mystique. I
Yeah.
mean, she's supposed to be winging out front, and there is an argument that Montauk Mystique was on a bad rail last time out. The problem I have is the barn's a little bit chilly, and I don't love the race that she's coming out of either. But I think if you want to use the excuse of the rail last time, Montauk Mystique becomes a much dangerous horse, and for that reason I'm going to use her, though I don't trust her at all. I mean, the horse to beat is the horse that you have on top by a lot.
Who's going to be a very short price again, Irad Ortiz Jr. aboard. And look, it was just drawn way outside. It was a race that came off the turf. I believe it was the 16 in that race, in that 8-horse field. And for some reason, it just was incredibly wide around that turn.
Well, that worries me about this horse, to be honest. And it was a day that the speed was very good and the rail was good as well. So obviously this horse ran well in the context of the race. The winner wired the field. The winner was a drop down for Karvich, I think.
Who debuted on turf, I believe.
Yeah, it was a big drop down that went right to lead with Tyler Gaffleone and wired the field. The problem I have in watching this horse is it's not like it's Irad Ortiz's style to be sitting out in the 5 and 6 path the entire way around the track. And I kind of got the feeling watching this horse that he's the kind of horse that likes to, she is the kind of horse that has issues. She's sort of a drifting horse, a horse that gets out. And that kind of worries me about her, you know? But she's an hour the horse to beat in here, isn't she?
She is. I will say Unholy is interesting, I think, on the drop down.
Well, that's why I picked her.
Yeah.
Because I went through and I said, yes, Mucho Mamma Mia is the horse to beat. I don't like the fact that she was so out in the middle of the racetrack last time. I don't trust Montauk Mystique, regardless the field she comes out of. I don't like. But I do think she'll run a little bit better today. And Unholy is just a completely new face. It's a trainer change of Michelle Nevin from the Asmussen barn. I don't think, it's at worst neutral. You're getting Michelle Nevin, who's good. And this horse just ran against such better horses. I want her as the new face to this crew.
Yeah, and she's not going to be 9-2, but.
Well, no, I don't think so. I mean, I'm looking at the doubles right now, and she is the third choice. I have a hard time believing people would bet Strange Fruit over her, just because Strange Fruit's had so many chances at this level. I can understand betting Mucho Macho Mia against her. I don't understand betting Strange Fruit. We'll see where they end up.
Yeah, and you had told me, too, in terms of Trevor McCarthy, he is off all amounts today?
He is. Kendrick is riding the one Unholy. I think Kendrick is riding the horse that I picked later, the 9 Ocala Dream. And I don't know if there's any. I think the 11 in the 5th race, somebody said to me that Castillo was running that horse.
All right, we'll get these all.
Yeah, I think those are the changes. Race number 3. So, race number 3. We'll start out. I was going to start out with Tivy on the outside as the morning line favorite, who finished second in a slightly better than average, I guess, off the turf race. I don't know. I thought Tivy was going to have a problem here because Tivy's not going to be able to get the lead from the 1 pay zone. And I feel like this was kind of his race to win, wasn't it?
I totally agree. I don't understand the love for Tivy. I don't understand why the horse is 9-5 morning line. Not to question the best morning line maker we have in the game, but I think Tivy's going to have a really tough time with
it. The 77 buyer in the last race is going to take a lot of money. You know, to be fair, I mean, it's interesting. Jenna Antonucci's only claimed 5 horses over the last 5 years. She's 0 for 5, but it's only 5 claims. The problem I have, it has nothing to do with Jenna, is claiming from Linda Rice.
Yeah.
Claims off Linda Rice in the dirt, 38 for 293 over the last 5 years. $1.04 ROI, 13%. And worse in sprints where they're 13% and 98-cent ROI. I don't love horses claimed from Linda. And I felt like this horse should have won last time, frankly.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And look, it wasn't even that great of a race that makes you think this horse is some sort of standout in here.
I agree.
Do you ever have this handicapping done where you look at a horse and you try and force reasons to like the horse because you're just caught up on the horse and you can't let it go. I sort of was that way with Clubhouse. I don't know if I necessarily should have picked him, but I couldn't get away from him. I see the back talent with him, horse who actually could run a little bit.
Right. The problem is it was for Todd Pletcher.
No,
That's my problem.
I understand. No question. Second to Drew's Gold, finished ahead of Joey Freshwater, and then they tried him in the Grade 3 Gotham. Okay, that wet track, Triple Crown Trail, not for him. He moves to Gustavo Rodriguez. He tried to bring him back in 8 days off the claim.
We tried to bring him back on Todd's training.
Right, exactly.
And it was a much tougher field, to be fair, and he was chasing a horse
Win
that's
for
pretty
Gold.
good. Right.
Yeah, that's an exceptionally tough 50,000 starter allowance, isn't it? Win for Gold,
Relative to
87,
these, it
85
certainly
buyers.
is.
Yeah, against this group. Even Garuvan had won a race earlier for 25,000 with an 80-plus buyer at Saratoga. I think a lot easier company for this horse today, and he gets a little bit of rest. You know, so I understand trying to win off Todd's training, and sometimes it doesn't work. Maybe the horse needs some rest, so maybe with a little time, we can see the better Clubhouse.
Well, he's 6-1. He's got nothing but races. The morning line's the longest shot on the board, and he has plenty of race, could win it. I'm just not enamored with taking horses that Todd had before, to be honest. I mean, I was more interested in the 2 and 4 as the 2 in here. I mean, I just thought Tenebris was in kind of a tough spot last time out. And it was a race that fell apart in certain ways, but he had a pretty good trip in there, but it was coming off a layoff. And his prior races, I thought, make him a very logical horse. You obviously saw it, but I'm going to take Built to Last. We'll show Built to Last running second, 3 back, in a race that completely and totally fell apart. I'll tell you something about this horse, though. When he was good, he could be more forward.
Which race is this?
This is 3 back when he finished second. I'm just finding a race to show of his second is Z-Bar. And he runs back to this kind of race, or really any of the 4 races, 3, 4, 5, 6 back. He's very tough in here, and he's a horse that has the ability to be more forward. And I wondered with Kendrick if we'd see him more forward. Now, clearly, his form completely and totally fell apart.
Yeah.
He was awful last time out. I mean, he didn't run a step. But Chris Engelhart gave him the summer off and gave him time, and I'm just kind of hoping coming back off the layoff, we see a horse that's more similar to the one that got good for Tom Morley, and then he ran the one good race for Chris Engelhart. Now, maybe the other problem is he fell apart when he left Tom's barn, which is also a possibility. Chris Engelhart's having a pretty good year. I'm going to take a shot with him to get his form back together, because I don't like really anybody in here. I know Payzone's the speed, but his win was against a terrible field. And I just was full, this race was full of horse I didn't want to bet on.
Yeah. No, I probably should have had Built to Last in there somewhere. You look at the race you showed, actually, he finished ahead of Win for Gold. One of the reasons I actually like Clubhouse in there. Z-Bear is a pretty good horse for this level.
Right. Now, to be fair, that was a wicked pace that he took advantage of. Win for Gold actually ran an amazing race running third, but he was running against good horses. If he can refine his form, much like you say with Clubhouse, then he's going to be dangerous in here. And the question is, can either one of them refine that once good form? I think either one of them would win if they did, or be major contenders. Race number 4, we are on the turf for this race. And I think a horse is going to take a ton of money in here is Let's Go Big Blue, who you have third and I have second. This is off the disqualification where he got a perfect trip. I'm still not sold on how good this horse is.
Yeah, and he's got to tackle older horses here in this spot.
He's kind of the worst to beat. He was a decent 2-year-old. I just feel like he's going to be kind of sexier with the stake race last time.
How did you feel about this call?
Well, I thought it was the right call. I mean,
okay.
As long as the stewards are consistent. I mean, he forced him out 3, 4 passes as he was going by and even made contact. I feel about Herding. I mean, they were way out in the track. It's just sort of a rough week for Bill Parcells. The horse coming down. Yeah. But I mean, I don't have an argument with being maybe the worst to beat. I just thought he'd take a lot of money sort of being stake-faced and preferred somebody else.
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of interesting races here. The first thing I wanted to ask you about is, are those fractions for real with the race that Rough Draft, Citizen K, Agent Creed are coming out? The 26 for that opening quarter?
We'll show that race, actually. I could be wrong, but I feel like I question these fractions, and Craig Wilkowski may have told me he agreed with them. I could be wrong.
It's hard to believe.
I will say, though, it is a race where the pace completely held together. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think a horse like Agent Creed is the one you want out of that race, because he was the one who was the most compromised by it. And Rough Draft, who had such an easy job. Rough Draft's not getting the lead in this race with the horses you have on top of here, Rinaldi.
Creed's the
Straight
6-horse here
Arrow.
closing into that slow pace.
Yeah, I just don't see him having that kind of trip. And I also wonder if the pace and his first time going long, he ran much better. And I don't really like him or Citizen K, to be honest with you.
I agree.
You're going to try to wake Rinaldi up from the dead on the drop.
Obviously, it's not even close in terms of class standpoint. He's the back class of this field. Can he run anymore?
The current class of the field.
He's the current class, no question. And he's going to be alone in front, isn't he?
Well, I guess it depends what you think Straight Arrow is going to do, because this is a dirt sprinter that has dirt sprint speed, and he is a half. He's a half to. You don't realize who this horse is a half to? He's half to one of your favorite horses.
Who's that?
Disco Partner.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at Arrogate, and listen, the dam was 6 for 7 with her production on the turf. There is a ton of pedigree with the Straight Arrow. I mean, doesn't Joel have to be forward with this horse?
We'll see if that turns out to be the running style. And
Yeah.
again, as you know, and I say it all the time, dirt speed doesn't equate to turf speed.
I mean, Rinaldi's supposed to be. He's supposed to be the speed of the speed. I don't think it's going to be that easy. I mean, the question with him is just whether or not you trust him. Because the problem I have is not the drop down as much as one layoff after another and then the drop down. I mean, listen,
Well, it's not even like-
he's a 7-year-old gelding. Where are they supposed to run him? They're running him where he belongs. It's not
Yeah.
a negative drop down.
It broke my heart a little bit seeing James Bond put him in for a tag, because it's been a big horse for them.
Yes, he has,
For a while.
$4.5 million almost.
But look, you got to put him where the horse can win, and
Right.
it's not like you have to go so far back to find a race where he flat out wins this race. It's 2 starts back that wins this race,
I don't disagree. I don't think his last race was that bad. I think his last race gives him a chance.
and he's
here.
going to have things his own way.
I'm not convinced of that. I mean, the time for a
I
pace
think,
projector
okay.
says he's not going to. I have trouble with that as well. On the other hand, do you really see Katie as the kind of rider that seizes the bull by the horns and is aggressive? Because this is a horse that when he was good, Luis Saez was very aggressive with him. I don't think he's a horse that you want to sort of nurse along.
You have to be in front with him.
You have to be
You
in
have to
front
be.
and you have to be establishing
Yeah.
the lead. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I always like this horse too. I just don't trust him.
Yeah,
That's all.
But having said that, huge plus, as you said, to Agent Creed with being able to close in that slow pace. I thought he was the other one in here.
So no love for Ocala Dream, who they claim. Now listen, I get it. Mike Dubb claims his horse, Mike Maker. They claim for 62. They're running for 45. It's never a good move. Now he is running for 85,000. So you do the math, and it's about 45,000. It's not, and he also has to get claimed. And somebody may claim him. We aren't that far from being a turf season. He's a New York bred. They would still get out as a winner in the whole situation. I don't love the drop down, but he was running against much better horses last time out. And you talk about that with Rinaldi, and I'm going to give him one chance dropping to this level for the Maker Barn. I thought he'd get enough pace to run at, and he's not that slow. And Kendrick's now riding him, and he should be able to get some position. So I'm going to give him one shot in this barn.
Okay.
I've always had a thing for this horse, and I know in there he has some good races. It's just been a while since he's run them. We'll break after 5, guys, by the way. Race number 5 is an interesting race, and I made a mistake, and I didn't realize it until after I sent the replays in, because I should have sent in the replay for Once an Eagle. Because that pause behind Foe's stretch, yeah, this horse had a significant trip in that race. Once an Eagle, he was bet, and Flavian was just completely and totally buried for life. So I want to give him one more chance. I wanted to go to horses of that experience in here, and I went to him. And the other thing about Run for Your Honey is that's a race that totally, completely fell apart. And he was the one setting the pace, and I actually thought he ran reasonably well in finishing 4th, beating 9 lengths, especially when you think that Broccardini won so easily. So I'm going to take the 2 out of there. But this is a race that is full of horses with pedigree.
Yeah, full of them. Denver's Alley. It's a horse I was really looking forward to. And unfortunately, the race came off the turf at Saratoga. The second dam was Ipitombe, who won the final 12 starts of her career was 15 for 18, won 1.5 mil on the grass. For David Duggan. You have a little bit naughty. Dam produced Millionaire.
Well,
Real
let's show that.
Oh, okay.
I actually have a great replay for this race.
Real Solution, yeah, who
Here's Real
DQ'd into a
Solution.
win in the Arlington Million and won the Manhattan.
Here he is winning Manhattan, as we speak. I'll tell you a funny story that he was a very good horse, and he is a half, as Greg said, to the number 12, a little bit of naughty, which is one of the reasons they spent a lot of money for him. He's also a half to 4 turf winners in total. When he was in the Arlington Million and there was the inquiry, Chad Brown called me right after the race, and he said, "Am I getting put up?" I said, "Yes," and he did.
It was clear cut?
I thought it was. I think he lost by a nose. I thought it was pretty clear cut.
And it's not like this is the only one, as you said,
no.
that this dam has produced. Costana, greatest stakes placed on the turf, I believe, for Cherie DeVaux. Ava's Kitten, 4-time winner on the turf, who was a stakes winner as well.
Named for
Who?
Chad Brown's daughter, Ava.
Okay.
Yeah, by Ken Ramsey. They paid a lot of money for this horse in Oscar Performance. I'll bet you this is the most expensive Oscar Performance sold. If not, got to be pretty close. I agree. I think the horse is dangerous. And also the horse you have on top, She Is All Business. That horse has a ton of turf pedigree.
Yeah, Dam was a multiple stakes place, produced Scuttlebutt, 7-time winner on the turf, who was a stakes winner. Runaway Rumor, multiple winner, stakes winner on the grass. Also, My Heart Belongs to Daddy. Yeah, multiple stakes winner, 5-time winner on the turf. So a lot of pedigree there for Mott, first time out.
No, I agree. There are two unusual pedigree horses here. I just wanted to put the horses that had run, being the 5 and 7. I thought both of them ran reasonably well in that race. But if either the 8 or 12 are run to their pedigrees, they're probably better horses than these. And Denver's Alley is going to be a huge price. Actually, I had put that horse 5th, so I saw the same things you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that horse did actually have a bit of an excuse first time out. I actually think Denver's Alley might have been more interesting on the dirt in the sense that horse got kind of a ridiculous ride first time out in the dirt. We'll see. There is some pedigree though, and that horse will be a very, very big price. That's first 5. Greg and I will be back with late pick 4 after a quick break.
Born in the foothills of the Adirondacks over 150 years ago, the Saratoga brand has become synonymous with quality. Carefully crafted spring water. Each stunning blue glass bottle is created with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. So open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga experience. Saratoga, an American classic that's always in good taste. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Greg Wolf and Andy Serling as we continue on with today's card at Aqueduct. Race number 6 is a tough race, I think, for us to talk about at this point because you've got a first-year onlooker with Irad Ortiz, and we were talking about, like, why is this horse who doesn't have a ton of pedigree 5-2, and maybe the horse is working well, or maybe it's just an Irad Ortiz play. You've also got another Todd Pletcher put the crazy away. You've got Thought Experiment, a gun runner who cost $400,000, despite the fact that the dam couldn't outrun you and I in a horse suit. I mean,
how'd that horse go for that price?
A gun runner. I mean, but the funny thing is, wait, now this horse was bought in 21, so it's weird, right? Because the gun runners, I guess Gun Runner had started out pretty well. Well, wait a second. Gun runners were 2-year-olds in 21, correct? Yes. Yes, because early voting was a gun runner.
Okay.
So I guess they had started out like a house on fire up in Saratoga, and that's why. Or probably the horse looked pretty good, too.
Okay.
It's a good name.
No,
I know we know nothing about these horses.
Yeah.
And without seeing the money being bet, you're sort of at a disadvantage. You've picked this horse, La Gravana. We'll take a look at her running second debut. I'm not a big fan of the race this horse comes out of.
Yeah, look, it was a fairly slow race. It is a first-time $250,000 Uncle Mo for Brad Cox, who winds up winning this race, Corey and Quinn.
Who was bet strongly.
La Gravina, inside post, did get bumped out of the gate and actually was last early and pretty far back. And then does make, I thought, a decent move considering it's a debut. Muddy sealed track. We'll see maybe this horse does move up on the fast going. At least has that education under the belt and was well clear of everybody else in this field. Behind her, Vivid Dreams. That was actually a third-time starter for Todd Pletcher, who the most recent race before that had been a Monmouth, but had shown at least a little ability.
I thought that she got a good setup in the sense that they were moving a little bit up front in a contested pace, but it is a Linda Rice second-time starter, can improve. Listen, I'm not going to take first-time starters unless I've got some giant story, which I don't have in here, and risk-free, you know, will run a race, but she's just risk-free, and she's had so many chances. As far as feathering, I kind of like horses like feathering that did some running in the race before falling apart late. And she broke slow in that race. I thought it was a pretty strong field. The second place finisher came back to win her next start, albeit a relatively short price, but she had been in pretty good form for the Asmussen barn. And this horse made a big move. This horse actually took the lead between calls and then just completely fell apart, was lugging in the stretch, stopped very badly, but she ran. It's not like she didn't show some real run. And a lot of Bill Mott first-time stars need races. So I thought she's the kind of horse that would run better second time
I want to
out.
see her on the turf. Dan produced Big Invasion.
But interestingly enough, they're leaving her on the dirt, and I'm sure Bill knows that. So he probably wants to give her another chance in the dirt before eventually going to the turf.
Yeah.
Because he could easily look for a turf race.
There's a couple interesting. So Party at Grants is coming out of a 40 maiden claiming race. This horse apparently had a major wake up with a huge work.
Really?
September 1st.
Oh, yeah.
Got a B+, big time work.
Okay.
Onlooker, the debuter for Pletcher the 4, decent drill, B, and then August 31st, Saratoga work. And then we know nothing, as you said, about the 7 or 8.
Yeah, so, I don't know. We'll see. The 8's been working at Monmouth. I will say that we saw a couple Chad Brown horses come back at Saratoga off layoffs that had been training at Monmouth. They both ran very, very well. That doesn't mean the Thought Experiment's going to be one that's going to run well. I put her second, but I picked Feathering on top. Race number 7. No, race number 7 was maybe, this is one of the races of the week, frankly. This is this race, this would be good if it was a grade 2 stake. This is a very competitive field of good horses. We didn't know Colonel Bowman was scratching, but we'll show the replay that involves Rotney, who ended up running badly in here. But also I thought Provocateur, who ran very well. When you think about Provocateur, was off for 10 months. Sort of chased the pace. Yeah, was on the inside, but really in the 2 path. And I thought the rail was good this day. And I thought ran very, very well going after the Asmussen horse, who ran so well to win the race. I don't think that horse has run back since that race. And Rotney got run off his feet. But isn't Rotney going to be the speed today?
Yeah, it looks like it. He's just, his prior 2 efforts were so good from him, weren't they?
Yeah, they were great.
I think
they were stakes quality.
The horse to beat. I'm very sad that Colonel Bowman's not in the race, because one of those horses I really like. He'd won 5 in a row before that defeat when he broke poorly against Marsalis. But whatever, he's out of the race. I think Rotney becomes the one to beat. And he looked like, before that last start, he was becoming potentially an elite sprinter.
Oh, no, he looked like he was a legitimate stakes horse.
Yeah.
The problem I have is it's not like he hasn't won races without the lead. And he was outside, and the rail was good. So I'll use that as a bit of an excuse. But he was in such good form, and it didn't come out of nowhere, because he had been good if you go back to the prior year, but not that good. And I just worry about the fact that he could step back. Having said that, I picked him second. I'm just committed to a horse in this race.
Okay.
Well, we'll get to
that
it.
race came a little bit out of nowhere, didn't it?
Well, we'll get to it, because I have the replays. And
all right.
Unless you guys, you want it. Eddie, can you show Kinetic Sky second? All right, we'll show Kinetic Sky. Well, you say it came out of nowhere. I'll say to you, it came off the claim for Rick Dutrow and Sandy Goldfarb. So, yeah, it came out of nowhere, but I'll tell you something. He ran super in here, because this was a pace that basically fell apart. And keep in mind, Uncle Moonlight, who was the other pace setter, who was beaten over 5 lengths, at 7-1, he came back and he lost a photo to Accretive up in Saratoga in his next start. So this was a very, very strong pace he was on top of, and he ran the best race. He ran better than Tonal Impact. And the other thing is, Rick Dutrow is a guy who gives horses time between starts. It's not like this horse wasn't working. He was consistently working, he just wasn't sent to Saratoga. So it's almost like they said, we're going to point for a race outside of Saratoga with this horse. Yeah, he comes back in a war, but I'll tell you something. I am confident if he runs his last race, he will be a major player.
Are you concerned at all about him being as effective going 6.5, or no?
I don't usually have a problem with less distance, and if you go back, look at his 6.5 furlong race back 2 years ago, where he ran an 85 Beyer when he wasn't running those kind of figs, so he has run well at these distances. I worry more about more distance than less distance, to be honest with you, so I'm not. Listen, if Rotney runs back to his races 2 and 3 back, and he's able to control on the front end, I don't care what race he runs, he's going to finish second to Rotney. But I'm going to take my chance because Rotney didn't run that well last time. I still think Rotney is the horse to beat. What do you do with Sheriff Bianco? Because I think Sheriff Bianco takes a lot of money in this race based on running second in stake. I think he's a little bit dressed up because this was a big inside track. He should have won this race. And keep in mind, American Revolution was the heavy favorite, and that's why he was a big price. American Revolution didn't run a step.
Yeah, and just Bankett's not the same Bankett.
Right. Dr. Iannito's fine. I'm not knocking the race, but he was supposed to win. This was a track that was heavily favoring inside speed. He got away with a relatively speaking moderate pace. He controlled the front end. He didn't get it done. But he's probably better with less distance, though, don't you think?
Yeah,
That's
I
the
will
one
say
thing
that.
I'll say.
Shortening up for him, I think, is a good thing.
I just feel like there's better horses in the race, but I still think he's pretty good.
I think he might just be a cut below. But again, you're expecting Rodney to come back to and return to the horse he was.
I'm hoping he doesn't.
Yes. If that horse
Well, I also think
is not going to be a factor. New York Traffic, even a horse who's a little interesting, but
take a look at his
long
win in
time
the
away
Firm
for him for
Success.
Saffie Jones. This was a horse who I thought at one point he had that big monster breakout race in that Affirmed Success, and I thought he's going to become a star.
This is it, the Firm Success. I agree with you. The only problem is he's Irad Ortiz, he's stake face, he's going to get bet. Let me tell you something. He better run back to every bit of his best races
field,
in
yeah.
this race. I mean, this is a very, very tough race for him to come back in, isn't it?
No, I completely agree. I love this race. It's my favorite race of the
Oh,
entire
this is
weekend.
my
probably.
favorite. This is the weekend, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. This is I'm so happy it came together. I realized that they scratched Curl Bowman, who could win. It does feel like a very, very interesting race. We'll see what happens in here, but I don't think you and I have a. I mean, we basically agree on the race. In fact, we almost exactly do. I
Yeah.
just have to bet Kinetic Sky in here. Race number 8, the Winter Memories, came back a very, very interesting race, and Greg is going to go for a first-time turfer, who I thought might have been entered as a pseudo MTO.
Now, this horse actually had a huge work on the turf.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the dogs out and ran monster, got a B+ work for this. So I believe they actually do want to go on the grass.
I'm sure they do with a B+ work.
Yeah. So we'll see. Obviously, a ton of ability. See what she can do. And she's maybe just a couple of the best in her division on dirt. So try turf in here. Having said that, beyond her, and we'll see what we get. I thought Tax Implications had the most upside for Chad, but I feel pretty good with that horse from the Chad Brown runners.
I don't disagree. We'll show them finishing 3rd and 4th. Soviet Excess, Tax Implications. I thought Tax Implications ran the better race. Soviet Excess had a slightly better trip. None of them were going to beat a Spray, who got a perfect trip and ran. I was a little disappointed in this effort by Tax Implications. And at some point, doesn't she need to win a race? I
No,
know
that's
she's
fair.
running against some good horses, but I don't like how the seconds and losses are sort of starting to pile up. Is that fair?
No question.
That kind of bothered me. And I'll tell you something else. I do think she's the horse to beat in this race. I don't disagree with that sentiment. I think you missed the opportunity with the Universal U with Soviet Excess, who was a preposterous almost 30-1 last time out. And I mean, I said, having pointed it out, I actually think I picked her like 3rd or 4th in there. And I feel like it was a missed opportunity to have hit the try in there because she was just ignored. And they were betting on, she was almost 3 times the price of Juniper Marshmallow, who, other than being Mike Beer's favorite horse, I have no idea why anybody was betting on that horse, because Soviet Excess has actually run some credible races. Look at their 2 forms and ask yourself, why was Soviet Excess 28-1 and Juniper Marshmallow was 11-1? It's weird, right?
Undefeated, Pletcher. I mean, I actually think there's a little bit of a case to be made for Juniper Marshmallow off the bench to be effective in here. I don't know about winning, but I think she does have some talent.
You know, I think the other 2 Chad Brown horse, actually there's 3 because the 14 gets in, Get Your Kicks. She's actually a little bit interesting in here, Get Your Kicks. This is a very tough post and spot for her. But Lady Beth was hampered by a very slow pace last time out, and she's going to be a square price in this race. And it's not clear she doesn't deserve another chance. And Chad Brown said he was uncomfortable with Gloria on the softer turf last time. Now, to be fair, she was very lucky to beat Tax Implications 2 races back. But she also draws the rail and gets Irad and Tax Implications, even with the scratches, post 7. So can't Liguria run better on a firm turf, getting a good trip from the rail? You don't think these horses are dangerous?
They're in here for a reason. He said it himself several times over. All these races, he entered multiple runners at Saratoga. He doesn't know how to separate them, so he's going to let them sort it out on the track, and that's why they're here. So it would be a little foolish to say, yeah, we know.
I don't think we know exactly who they
are.
are. I mean, they've all run decent races at different times, but I'm going to go in a very different direction here, and I'm going to take the number 6. Sweet Lou's got aces. This is the win in the Tepin last year. This horse showed that she could win rating last time out going a mile. She can run shorter now. I will say, even though they only ran 1 race on each course in this day, there's a possibility that inside speed was a real advantage. But this was as a 2-year-old she ran this race, and bias or not, this was a very fast race for a 2-year-old. And I think the argument is once you got her away from running down in Florida, she ran a very good race at Belmont in winning that race. She's not a private purchase. She was sold at the auction. before Saratoga for almost $400,000. She switches to Graham Motion for this race. Who is riding this horse?
I don't have that yet. I'm looking
don't
on the
think I have
website. It's not listed.
Yeah, I don't have a rider yet for this horse.
But we will get that to you. Yeah, she's interesting. Going back to Chad Brown, too, look, so many of these races happened the last 2 years, too, in the Diana. Biggest price of the 4 was the winner.
Yes, that notion. People get themselves so worked up in the fact that Chad Brown has a lot of horses in the races. You don't hear it when Mark Casse has a lot of horses in Woodbine. You don't hear the same nonsense. I understand Chad Brown's a bit of a trigger for a lot of people for whatever reasons, and they lose sight of the fact that you still have to handicap the race.
Yeah.
And you've got to get away from thinking, oh, I'm mad, Chad Brown is street. I don't know. Chad Brown's making these races go. At least he's running his horses. Mark Casse almost won the Diana because he was the only one that seemed to have the courage to run against him. And you wonder a little if there weren't more people. I mean, Brendan Walsh almost won the New York Handicap the year before when Chad had an army in there. You're not going to beat him if you don't run. And you're right. I mean, I think that sometimes people just lose sight of handicapping the race. They say, oh, I can't beat the Chad Brown monster. Which one?
Yeah, you have no idea. And yeah, everyone thought In Italian was a monster, and it's White Beam who winds up winning the Diana.
At 8-1.
Yeah.
And the year before, it was
In Italian.
Italia winning it at 7 or 8-1.
I remember I ran into you, or I guess we were on the phone potentially, and you said, David Aragona likes this horse a little bit. I'm
You really like that horse, yeah.
I used 3 or 4 in the race from Chad Brown. I did not use it in Italian, even after you had told me that.
Well, Dave was right. The horse was involved in that fast
Yeah.
pace, and the Justin obviously was right. She went on to become extraordinarily good, and we'll see. I guess she's pointing the first lady. I think this is a fun race, and I love all these races named for all those Phillips horses that, in this case, the Jimmy Toner trained Winter Memories, who made her last start in the Diana. Speaking of the Diana, the race number 10 is a fun race, right? Or 9, I'm sorry. Wait, I got a text. It's to be announced, the rider. Thanks for
Okay,
that,
thank
Steve.
you.
We knew that. Go away. This is the only race that you and I agree on in the entire card. Go
How
ahead.
about that? Well, being Betty, so she was legitimately slammed out of the gate in that race.
That was weird, right?
Are we looking at this?
No,
Okay.
we're not looking at it.
Yeah, so, I mean,
There's a reason.
you have an opportunity, anyone watching, to go see what happened here, to legitimately see him. And then she actually put in some serious run in this race. Graham that was a horse to me who I thought was maybe all meet long the surest winner of the
She was
meet.
so disappointing in her next start, wasn't she?
I know. But that maiden special weight win, I
love the
lock.
family. It's a big turf
Yeah.
family. I have to take her. But I think there's a lot of stuff going on in this race. If you get Mastery's Secret home, the only thing that will prevent it from being your second grade, your best idea is that Shanuski's not riding. This horse has turf pedigree.
Yeah, second dam, 3 for 4 in the turf grade 3 winner, sprinting.
Damn, produced 2 turf winners.
Yeah, I'll tell you this too. I don't know how much I like in terms of is there pedigree there or not. The 2 big work on the grass.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. For what it's worth.
This horse will be a big price too, given the race the first time out. It's not a lot of turf pedigree, but it's a hard
Yeah.
sponge, so there is turf pedigree in there. The 10 Stormy Disco, to me, is a very dangerous horse. That horse, the dam was a multiple winner in the turf. She's produced a turf winner. I'm going to use that horse. Who's right?
Disco partner still looking for his first winner.
Yeah.
But it'll come.
I was going to say something. How many chances to get in Saratoga? They rained off just about every turf
Yeah.
sprint for 2-year-olds. We were carding up there, so I want to give them a chance in there. What about the 6 Pretty Up for Rudy? This horse has plenty of pedigree.
It did produce a 7-time winner on the turf.
3 for 5.
Yeah.
No killers, but they were horses that couldn't run in the dirt, which I kind of like. Now, this horse was bet a little bit first time. It might just be, the Rudy factor and the first-time star for Rapoli. But I thought this horse was very interesting getting in the turf.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Probably a use. I mean, playing multi-race wagers in here, how do you feel about this race? How much depth do you feel like you need?
Well, I mean, that's a hard guess. It's not, I mean, if you want to talk about the late pick 5, for argument's sake, I mean, it's a hard sequence because for me in the late pick 5, I would want to have any of the 5, 7, 8, and 12 in the first leg because you got 2 horses with big pedigrees and you've got 2, I think, that ran that are dangerous. I mean, the 6th race, it's a little bit tricky for me. 1, 4, and 8. So now you're already at 12.
Yeah.
You know, I might take a shot in the 7th and just use the 7 and 8. So now you're at 24 combinations.
Okay.
But then what do you do in the 8th race? Because you're at $12 for every double you play in the next. So if you go 4 by 4, You know, even you go 4x4, you're at $192. I mean, which, you know, if that's in your comfort zone, that's fine. But for a lot of people, that's not in their comfort zone. You like Sacred Wish. I get it. Good workout. I would probably use. See, I could use any of the 1, 6, 8,
I
and
think
10
that
in this
race is wide open,
yeah.
too. It's not like I have some, I'm going to lean there in
And
any.
do I want to lean on the 1 and 10 in the last race? No, I want the 6 too. So, I mean, would I feel like I was a cinch if I had 1, 6, 10?
Yeah.
No.
It's a tough
But
card.
depending on what I put into it, I could live with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to have a play that got alive the 1, 6, and 10 in the last race because maybe it ends up chalking out, but there feels like a lot of opportunities for that not to happen.
Even too, I mean, Sun and Wind in here for Rudy Rodriguez. Second dam, 3-time winner on the turf, who was a stakes winner as well. Maybe a little interesting. Does get Flavien Prat.
I agree. It's odd that Flavien shows up on this horse, and the horse has speed, and we did see horses that speed pretty much be dominant in yesterday's 2 turf sprints. I don't know. The rails are out 36 feet. It's hard to believe there's some big bias, but we did see that. Now, one was part of a heavy entry, but let me ask you a question. The horse that won the race we got off the air for, the turf sprint, the one, weren't they making the other half of the entry, the horse from Europe? Wasn't that probably the one they were betting?
I feel like they both, on their own, would have been heavily bet.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not an easy sequence. It's a fun sequence. We'll see what happens. Greg, thank you so much. Anyhow, you need to head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member of Naira Bets, use the promo code MATCH200, and we will match with $200 of your initial deposit. We have the middle
3
pick
of them,
4,
right?
2, 3, and 6 for the pick 4s today. 20% exacta bonus opt-in, as I already did over at Naira Bets. Opt-in for this. Take your time. Don't hurry getting that. 20% exacta bonus. Hit the exacta. Any exactas at Belmont the Big A. 20% bonus. See the site for details. And last but not least, 1 to 5:30 on FS2 for all the action today. Anyway.
First Friday of the meet.
That's right. How many more to come? A lot. The next time we're not at Aqueduct, we'll be in Saratoga for the Belmont Stakes.
Can you believe that?
I'm beginning to believe it. 9 months away.
Let's get the
it's
clock
almost
going.
exactly 9 months. It's 9 months less a week. So anyway, Greg, it was fun. We'll do it again, I'm sure, quite often. Are you on Fridays? Is that your
Yes.
official day? Okay. Greg on Fridays. Kay will be on tomorrow. Special guest on Sunday's show, Chris Griffin.
Really? Oh, great.
Chris making a cameo. I think I want to. Does the Meadowlands start this weekend? Those turf cars, the Meadowlands. So I imagine he might
Ask
be calling
Chris.
those. That would be Friday and Saturday. Anyway, we're done. Johnny I will be up next. The reprise, the scratches and changes. Have a great day.
Born in the foothills of the Adirondacks over 150 years ago, the Saratoga brand has become synonymous with quality. Carefully crafted spring water. Each stunning blue glass bottle is created with the same attention to detail and care that has been the Saratoga hallmark for generations. So open a bottle, take a sip, and savor the Saratoga experience. Saratoga, an American classic that's always in good taste. Make every day exquisite.